So from the White House's vantage point, President Biden cannot stop winning. That is the message we're ending this year on, because there is a massive string of victories this week to reinforce that theme. There was WNBA star Brittany Griner being released from a Russian penal colony in a high-profile prisoner swap. Americans now have more money in their pockets. Wages have increased more than 5% over the last year, and gas prices have dropped to their lowest levels in 12 months. And there's a massive boom of advanced chip manufacturing that is coming to the United States. That is a major win in Biden's push to stand up a domestic supply chain. Now, the president's on a serious winning streak, and even his opponents recognize it. Just this week, former Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich wrote that the GOP has to quit underestimating President Biden. In his words, conservative hostility to the administration has blinded his colleagues to just how effective Joe Biden has been on his terms. And it's even more impressive considering the president's relatively soft poll numbers. Again, just this week, the president led his party to victory in the state of Georgia, making 2022 the first midterm since 1934. That is 88 years ago, when the party in power successfully defended every incumbent Senate seat. That victory means that Democrats' Senate majority becomes stronger, giving them more room to act on judicial nominations and other executive appointments. And this coming week, the president will sign into law legislation to give federal protections to same-sex and interracial marriages. That is no other way to say it. The man is on a roll, and he simply cannot be stopped. And to paraphrase a former president, I wonder if Americans will get tired of all of this winning. Joining me now is Democratic Congresswoman-elect Jasmine Crockett of Texas. Congresswoman-elect, it's great to have you with us. Thank you for coming back on the show. I guess I'll start by asking you that question. Are you, as a Democrat, tired of winning? Talk about the president's streak here and what you think it means as you enter Congress next year.
I'll never get tired of winning. Hats off to the Biden administration. Listen, there were so many people talking about this red wave that turned out to be a red dribble, if we can even say that. I mean, think about it. We were dealing with a redistricting year, and we still were able to come away with monumental wins. The fact that we are in the minority entering this next 118th term, you know what? It's barely a minority. And we know that the Republicans are struggling right now. They won't even be able to function having 218. And I couldn't be more ecstatic. I think that the president still has some wins left this term.
You were on this show with us before the midterms, and you warned Democrats to focus on, quote, factual fears, things like abortion access and protecting our democracy, while ignoring fake fears from Republicans, like attacks on trans children, for example. Did the midterms prove your instincts right?
Absolutely. When you saw the record turnout from Gen Zers, think about the things that Gen Zers care about. They care about abortion access. They care about guns. Let's look at what the president was able to do on guns. You didn't even mention that part. Literally, he just has so many wins, it's hard to keep up. And so I think that we were able to motivate a group of people that historically people continuously say young people don't vote. Well, let me tell you, Gen Zers saved us this time. They absolutely voted, and it was because we focused in on the things that mattered. We focused on the substance. They paid attention, and they were motivated.
This week, the House passed a bill ensuring federal protections for interracial and same-sex marriages that I mentioned there in the intro. It's already passed the Senate. President Biden expected to sign it this week or next week. Talk about the importance of the Respect for Marriage Act. What does it do? Highly symbolic, or does it actually also have something more than symbolism?
Listen, you're implying that it was a mixed bag, and it really was. It was a step in the right direction. It was exactly what I thought of when I went down to the Texas House, and all of the senior members kept saying incremental change. And it was one of those things that was really hard for me to accept. Is this everything that we wanted? Is it everything that we should be entitled to in this country? Absolutely not. But was it a step in the right direction? Absolutely, especially after we saw what Clarence Thomas had to say in that terrible Dobbs opinion. We knew that more rights were on the chopping block. And so at least we're able to protect some of those rights. I just hope that we can get back to the rights that were under attack in Dobbs, the rights that we still are struggling with, and that's reproductive rights. But this is absolutely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, a step in the right direction, and certainly an important step nonetheless. You were just elected as the freshman representative to Democratic leadership, a significant position. What does that mean to you? How do you plan on using that position to advance the things that you care about, the things that you're talking about, and the things that matter to your constituents?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, it was interesting because we literally just got back from Harvard. That was another part of our orientation. And we talked about who was voting for who and why. And one of the very interesting things that we learned is that overwhelmingly, if people actually were tuned in and got the information, they supported the president at a range of about 20% more. And so one of the things that we've really got to do is we've got to work on making sure we're getting the information out. So communication is important. Not everyone takes their information from MSNBC. I know that may be a surprise, but we know that people are on Twitter, they're on TikTok. They're all over. And so we've got to make sure that we're communicating by sending letters, by making sure that we're going and meeting people where they are, meeting them at church, meeting them wherever we can, the grocery stores, literally yelling these wins from the top of our lungs to make sure that people know, no matter if you're in rural America or if you're in urban America, the Democrats are fighting for you. If farmers want to make sure that there are farms that are left because climate change is causing such a problem, then they'll vote for Democrats. It's just a matter of getting the message out to them. If you want to make sure that in rural America, your hospitals aren't closing, you probably need to vote for the Democrats, the ones that wanted to expand upon Medicaid access and make sure that your hospitals stay open. And so I think it's just about making sure that I use this position and emphasize to leadership that we need to communicate to everyone. We saw that in Georgia. Senator Warnock was not able just to communicate with Atlanta Metro. He had to communicate to all of Georgia, as well as the organizers. We saw what Black Voters Matter did. We saw what Stacey Abrams and her team did. And so it's going to take a lot. But I want to do those things. I want to do the organizing on the ground, and I want to make sure that we're messaging out about the great things that we're doing.
It is a team effort, no doubt about that. Representative-elect Jasmine Crockett, congratulations to you, and thank you for making time for us. Look forward to speaking to you again in the weeks and months ahead.